Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Good morning. Well, today is Federal Reserve Open Market Committee release day, which means that we all get to sit around and listen to people that have absolutely no clue about interest rates complain about how the Federal Reserve System should be abolished. But in all seriousness, let's look at the action. The E-mini, man, that close, it's just, we were doing okay, and then the market just completely fell apart. Now they're still having trouble getting down here. This is a support zone, and it is definitely acting that. You can see it's a support zone. From here, this is where they stopped, in this zone, see? So this is where people have some incentive to buy for whatever reason, and they are buying, but then they dump it at the end of the day. It's kind of concerning. Now the interesting thing is that the E-mini Treasuries were very, very reluctant, and even after that huge crash, they did not break a new weekly high until the overnight session, and then they did, but only briefly. So there appears to be some strange market forces at play here. Not some strange, but there are some forces at play here keeping us down, but then, it could just all blow, bust up. And if the Federal Reserve, decision causes the right kind of move in the market, you could see some really crazy things. Yeah, we're going to stick around and stream it because it's going to be something else. I don't think I have seen a Federal Reserve decision as highly anticipated as this one since they announced quantitative easing. So, big deal. Also, Bitcoin, where is it? Where are you, Bitcoin? There you are. Bitcoin had a really strong move up today. Really strong move up. So they're doing the pullback finally. I think you're going to see a lot of people in the Bitcoin market say, this is it, and try and get on board and then have to dump again. like seeing it pump like that is not good, in my opinion. Just my opinion. Okay, I think we do have some news releases that we need to be aware of today. A lot of Canadian data. But for us, it's just a current account. And existing home sales at 8 o'clock. Yeah, this is going to be an odd day. So we need to be on our toes because we might see some big institutions come in and hedge themselves various different ways. But then got to be careful not to get too in love with anything because it is Federal Reserve Day, and I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen. Nobody except for Mr. Powell. Okay, well, let's grab the links.
Just a heads up, it's under 3 minutes. Small. Send you. To the common deficit. Just under a minute.
Good morning. It's gonna be a slow start today. Let's see, maybe we can go and find some people to. It's
10
pretty
seconds.
low liquidity again today.
Month on month minus 0.4%, year on year 1.7%, core month on 2%, year on year 1.5%, common 1.9%, trim 1%, median 1.9%, US current account deficit 124 billion, prior revised deficit of 101.2 billion.
Okay, so they are already forming an interesting liquidity wall at 31. I find it interesting that there is a big order below us at 27, and I am seeing a little bit of that below us as well. Let's see if this holds. We will hold a very tight stop. Wow. I'm going to give it a little bit of room. I think we should give it a tight stop there.
It's an equity Allergan spending sales with advancing.
Okay. Interesting back and forth. Let me just see the number here. Current account is in line with expectations.
Products.
Numbers, almost all the numbers look in line. Okay. E-mini's moving down.
Allergan out those.
Oh, whoops.
Assessment.
Whoops. I'm so silly. I didn't post the YouTube one. Yeah, I'm not quite seeing. Well. Hmm. I'm not seeing what I expected to see, but we are definitely getting something here at 30.5. But what I'm seeing is that when it ticks down, at least the first time that it ticks down, they buy it right back up. Then they offer a little bit more, it sits there, and then of course it did tick up again, and it's held. And every time that it ticks up, they're putting 1,200 and they hold it. Now I do not see as of yet a lot of interest in buying 31. Just 154. And it was awfully sparse coming through. But there is all this. This is stacking up here, so I think that this trade is maybe starting to not look good.
Where citizens contained in evidence that Italy's Trier saying the public debt to GDP ratio will rise slightly in 2018, then
And there doesn't really seem to be a very clear agreement between the three instruments right now. Like the 5-year looks like it could tick down again at any moment. The 10-year, it is not quite buy-in per se, but they are holding a decent amount of liquidity at 30.5. And we've only had 440 buy into 31 and 90, only 90 traded into 30.5. So yeah, I don't think that now if we break down and something a little bit more interesting happens, then maybe we could have some interesting action. Or not have to say here if we don't get something interesting in the next like 10 minutes. Okay, so there was a really strong offer on that downtick. Okay. Well, they're still willing to buy it, but they're not offering as much. To put this down so we can see the chat here. Okay. 5-year ticked up. Well, that changed things quite a bit. Didn't hold it though. bouncing around a lot, but not much actually going through. You appear to be reacting mostly to what the 5-year is doing.
I'm tweeting again. Saying Mexico paying indirectly for the new US
Yeah, so his full tweet was Mexico is paying indirectly for the wall through the new USMCA, the replacement for NAFTA. Far more money coming into the US because of the tremendous dangers at the border, including large scale criminal and drug inflow. The United States military will build the wall. But everything that I've been told says that that's not how it works. And the military that I was reading yesterday specifically, the military funds are already earmarked for other things. And you would still need acts of Congress to allow that. It kind of sounds like pre-spin though for it, maybe some capitulation. I don't know. Some capitulation on the government funding fight. That is. Market yesterday believed that he capitulated because the chances of a shutdown went down to like 10% yesterday. Well, I don't know about that one. The way that happened, actually a little bit of stops at 31.5. Sellers immediately came back in and sold it. There was people willing to sell it there, for sure. And you can see that it doesn't trigger my stop. So like and that was the way that I backtested it. So the way that I backtested it still says that you're likely to see 29. But we'll see. If this flips, they're toying with the idea. They're thinking about it. Like, maybe I should pull it at 30.5. Doing it. Definitely got to be thinking it. Well, now that the offer is lined up again, and I put the pressure on, and they didn't get a reaction, now they're gonna pull it back and then try it again, see if they get a reaction. Generally, how this thing tends to work.
continues to pay 1 delay for QM mistakes.
So Vareka then, we'll make every effort on UK EU trade deal.
I was just about to say, before I did it there, that the way that the level 2 is fiddling there kind of says that there's probably still at least 2,000 willing to offer at 31 that could come back. And sure enough, there it is. But you're not getting the 30 half pulling. I think that you would really have to see that pull. I mean, they could sell the whole thing, but that would be a super gutsy move for somebody to do here. This kind of looks to me like very few people are willing to really stick their neck out. Like I have. Which probably means it was not a good decision. But I do have a statistical edge. So we're just gonna be hands off on it. He kind of moved up there and got close to that order at 25.56. I think there's a good chance that they will make another push and fill it. Hmm. And there's still 2,000 willing to offer. So when I see that, I kind of wonder, okay, so is there a guy that's stacking and pulling, 2 to 500, but he's not actually getting filled on when those, push now. Okay, now, oh, they were just on the edge of flipping, and they did not. Ah, okay, but they're still not letting it stay offer. Still not letting it go offer.
So Vareka says some in UK starting to understand value of EU.
Mm.
Vareka says Irish PM says UK wanted a legal guarantee that future relationship treaty be in place and operable by 2021, even if it wasn't approved by EU parliaments. Vareka says EU was unable to give that as it would potentially make the backstop inoperable and would potentially put onus on EU's border. He's speaking in Irish Parliament.
So there are now some people willing to sell it pretty aggressively at 30 half, but it was not able to stay offering, and it was only $8.99 to take it back up, and now there's 2,000 on the bid again. I don't know if that's super significant because, uh, the E-mini and currencies probably could be a lot more influential here than what's going on in the level 2, but there's definitely something about that spot. Okay. Hold there. That's a lot to trade into 29 quarter. And the chart in the ZB is starting to look a little negative, and the absorption in the 5-year is looking really negative. Sorry, not the absorption, the liquidity favoring down in 5-year. You see how? Well, I'll post it here in Discord. Sat here forever, and then it ticked down, and the liquidity started building right there where we turned from. Okay. So that's a lot at 30. In the E-mini, quite making it up to that order now. Offer's not as strong again. Okay. Well, I hope that you guys are able to stay awake. Okay. It's in the 30 year. Definitely a change here as we get to the top of the hour in the way that the liquidity is behaving.
Again, the Fed have just come out and said that there is FOMC meeting has gone ahead and is started as and second day of the meeting. We will get the decision and announcement later on this evening.
Okay, so not really news. They're having the meeting, guys. It's actually happening. Not that they've ever canceled it before ever, but you can rest assured now that it is they are doing the meeting. So like if you have the ability to control news, that would be the sort of thing that you'd put out just to see if Twitter robots respond to it or something.
That's Newswire reporting that Russian oil companies didn't oppose OPEC Plus pact terms.
There's a lot of people watching today for such crappy action. How are you guys doing? Okay, okay. They're gonna hold that. But you're gonna have to get more than 1,000 there for it to really stay. See, like 500, you can just buy that. It's only, a few 10,000s in Dubai. Wow. How did you guys get to 10 million subscribers? I don't believe you. Wow, how is that? Let me see. Let me look at your channel, okay? Let's see your channel. Go to channel. Mm-mm-mm. Mm. What's the subscriber number? In there. Channel rates are fun. Well, the way that I look at it is all the serious discussion happens in Discord, so you guys want to fuck around in YouTube chat. That's completely fine with me. Oh, bought some Bitcoin, huh? Well, Bitcoin is going up today. I do not view the way that Bitcoin is moving up right now as really positive. Like, having it move up is okay, but when it moves up, I wanted to see it like it's moving up, but people really don't care. And like I'm still seeing news posts about it, and it seems to me like people are still looking for the new run. And if you still have all those people looking for the new run, what's going to happen is when you buy, um, you're going to have way more people buy than there are people actually coming into the market. Does that make sense? So like say there's 1,000 people that are willing to buy Bitcoin, and maybe 250 of them are like hodl for life. Okay, so then you have these other 750 people that maybe they all got washed out. So they all decide to buy. Okay, and then that month, so that's 750 people, and then that month, maybe 500 people, 500 more people get interested in buying Bitcoin, right? That's not enough buyers. And so all of those people that just bought are now coming in and they don't have anybody to sell it to. Well, that was a strong iceberg at 30, but they traded up through. Oh my. And then he dumps 23 on it. But the 30-year is ticking up. Anyways, so what's going to happen? There's going to be more sellers eventually. Like it's going to sit there forever, of course, because these guys they're really stubborn. They don't want to give up. But eventually, there's just too many sellers. It's going to go back down. It's got to be a situation where
Brecker again. Withdrawal deal cannot be substantially renegotiated.
there's just no interest.
Actually, the withdrawal deal cannot be substantially renegotiated.
So then you get in a situation where like there's no interest. 50 people buy it or something like that. But then that month 100 people become interested in Bitcoin. Then that means that they're going to make a profit because there's more people to sell it to. Right? So is that what's happening right now? No, because everybody's looking to buy the bottom. That's why I think well, of course, the real reason I think that it's going to go down is because my indicator says that it's going to, but that's kind of my logic behind the way that it's moving today in Bitcoin is not a positive thing. That's like a pump up, and that's like you take your profits or use that as an opportunity to get out because there could be another dump coming. It will probably be a lot like it was at 6K, where they toy around with it forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and it seems like it's just never going to drop. But I do think that that's what's going to happen. Okay, so there is a really big iceberg at 30. Well, I mean, there was 4K, and they were able to get through it, and then somebody dumped 2,300 on it. And now they've bought through that, and there was an iceberg of 4,000. And now the 5-year is kind of ticking down a little bit more. And we are seeing very severe spreading. So when I see changes that severe in the spread, there is almost always a strong move. So I can't necessarily predict which way.
Stories.
It tends, it's not always, but it tends to go in the direction of the spread, which means if we're flattening, we will go down. But oof, the ZB is going up, and the E-mini is not necessarily cooperating either. Okay. I think we may have to get out here. Let's see. They're making it look scary, which I'm kind of resisting that. Don't want to just be scared out of something. You just want to be actually more aggressive because they're doing that. Okay, but the E-mini is ticking down there. Aha.
Block sell.
Yeah. Where do I see this spread? I will post the picture. Well, here, let me post a picture in Discord first. But if I'll show you here. Here's the knob spread. Okay. Here's FYT. Now look at the ranges. The 5-year is almost at the bottom of its range, and the 30-year is almost at the top of its range. So that is very dramatic flattening. Like when I see a flattener, usually what I will see is the 5-year will move down really fast, and the 30-year will move down too, but just not as fast. But to actually see them going in opposite directions, the 5-year tick down and the 30-year tick up is extremely unusual. I've seen it before, but it's extremely unusual, and that is extremely strong spreading. And that kind of action can lead to a big move. The other thing I'm seeing now, just there a second ago when I was like, well, this looks really scary, and that's why I'm kind of holding back here from selling from getting out, because when they're making it look scary, they're trying to get people to be conservative and say, well, maybe I better play it safe and get out. And that's like the opposite of what you've got to do. You know? They're playing mind, so they're playing mind games with it here. And then of course they ticked it down, and there was a huge puke, and blocks sell at 29.5, and now 29.5 is pretty good offered. Although that, I mean, I don't know. A spread like that, I think there's a really good chance that we get even more out of it. Perhaps down to this. Let me put my order down there where everybody else is, but I'm not on Binance. No, I don't think so. At least I've made so many exchange accounts everywhere, you know. But I have many accounts. But I pulled all of my money out of the market for Bitcoins. Like when it was way back in, I think it was May, when we were at 10,000, because I bought at 6. It moved up to 10,000 and I got out. And Let's Play watch us buy 333 Bitcoin in 1 hour. So I don't believe you. But if you do, I'm going to report you to the CFTC, because that telling me that sort of a thing is not legal. Not joking, dude. Don't play it like that. If you're gonna buy something like a big amount, don't tell me, please. Okay, so they were able to get it to go bid at 29.5. Got to keep in mind that the move when we ticked up, part of it was because the E-mini was moving down. We could still come back just because the E-mini is still hasn't necessarily made us a clear swing yet. $333 Bitcoin is not actually that much, comparatively speaking. When you watch that tape, you guys used my I have a tape. I have a link on me right now. I'm too lazy to go and find it, but I have a GitHub repository out there with a special tape that aggregates the orders for you better, so you can see large orders better. And when they sell, man, they'll 50. You see, just 50 will come through at one price, and you'll see that happen multiple times. It's really crazy. Okay. Well, should we do that? The thing is the edge that I took this trade on said that we could touch 29. And we did, but you didn't get filled there. So I can take the one tick, and then if I get lucky enough that they give me 30.5, I can, it gives me a little bit of a buffer. They may just not do it. So I'm taking a big risk of missing a move, because I still think we're going to move down. What about the consideration that there is no spread, but it is collected on long in ZN before they open? Well, okay, so a little bit of terminology there, right? So I think what you're saying is the action there might not necessarily be because somebody was doing a spread trade. Yeah, I think that's kind of what you're saying, right? And that may be the case. Because when this happens, I don't know why it happens. And like I said, it's extremely difficult for me to really tell which way they're accumulating positions, because you don't know if it's the limit buyer here, or the market buyer here, or the market seller here. You know what I mean? All I know is that when it spreads that much, you usually get really strong moves. Well, I really bungled that one, didn't I? Unfortunate. You've been accumulating since 2012. Wow. Well, my valuation method that has been pretty good at catching when the market is going to crash or bottom says that Bitcoin is very likely to go down to 2,000. So if you're accumulating, of course it's if and you're really in it for the long haul, of course it's not a bad thing to buy some here, but you're probably going to be able to get a better price. That's my opinion. Just my opinion, obviously. I'm not giving financial advice or anything. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. I'm waiting until it's to 2000. And even then, once it gets there, I might sit on it for a while because I really want to see that it's dead. I want people to stop. Like if I'm seeing stories about it on CNBC, then it's not dead yet because people still care. Yeah, they're gonna pull at 29.5 maybe. Yeah, that really sucks. Mm-mm-mm. So if you bought 133 bitcoins, but the market has been going down. That's interesting. Mm-mm-mm. At least the futures. Look at the way that it's been going down too. That's a little. What is the best price for long buyers? It depends on the strategy you're using, I guess. I don't know. I mean, we've had this conversation many times before, haven't we? Where I'm totally okay with buying highs and selling lows of the day if the right set of conditions is there. I think on a day like today, it's probably a bad idea. Because well, let's just say like the first time that it came down to 29, you know, and it bounced back 3 ticks on you. It's like ugh. So if it's going to be that kind of a day, you really want to try and get the top of that range. That's why I thought that maybe I would get filled at 30.5. I now see that that was a big mistake, but what can you do? You don't want it to come back on you. But I do think, you could get it to come back. Like I think maybe they make a slightly lower low here. Like they touch 28.5 and then maybe they pull back and then they could go down again but I think that they want that 27 down there. It looks juicy to me. Now, the 30-year is not along yet. And if the 30-year decides to sell, that could be the impetus that you need for a wider drop. Or they could keep pushing and push us all up. I don't know. There's also this in the E-mini, still kind of looks weak. There may be basing here. But it's still in the place where they wanted to sell it for another leg lower would be very easy. Sure enough, they tick up. So there's been, how much is traded at 29? So what I'm noticing down there is that there's actually a decent amount of interest because they were trading like more than 2,000 there at 29. And there was a lot that's traded at 29.5 too. I have to say, interest here at 29 is much higher than it was at 30.5. We have traded, I think, as much volume here in the last 5 minutes than we did like the whole first 40 minutes when we were at 30.5. but we're getting closer to the E-mini, so maybe that doesn't matter. I don't know. Now you might be saying, I think you might be trying to make the case that maybe we should be buying here, right? And that might be the case. It's just like, if we're going to get a move, I don't know if it's going to be really strong up or really strong down. The thing that makes me think the most that we're going to go down is that big order at 27. Because you normally would see a big order at the higher the low of the day. But 2 ticks below the low of the day is really off kilter. And that says to me that there is somebody that really does want to see it go down to 27. You know what I mean? Be dead wrong, but now the other thing that I'm seeing though, this still looks very much like the action where the order flow just doesn't give us a very good read, doesn't it? Because I had an edge at 30.5 that said that it was going to go down, right? That's something that's back tested and tells me that there's like almost an 80% chance that they're going to come down at least a tick. Very, very my best edge, really. I would only trade that if it happened enough. Now that it happened and it touched that price and it stopped at that price even. And now and even the way that it did it and everything, and we're still only barely seeing 4,000 on liquidity on the board here, even at like the critical prices, you know? I don't know. And so let's add to that ZF came down to 28 quarters and they're leaving some liquidity behind there now. So there are a lot of reasons to just stay out of this. But if we are going to do something, it's definitely got to be like something on the edge. Well, I'm going to cancel this because I'm thinking if that 30.5 is filled, I mean, maybe if they pull. They come up there and they pull, then maybe I will take it. But if they come up and they just trade 4,000 contracts and make 30.5 go bid, then that could just go right through you. And the E-mini is not stopping, is it? Not stopping. I think they want that unfinished auction down there at like 25.47 or so. Okay. Yeah, sure. So did we actually tick 28? No, I don't think that we actually got below 29. There was a decent amount, but I think you might be right that like then it's ticked back up to here. That's just saying like there's a range here between 30.5 and 29. Let's say 29 and 31 because we've ticked 31 a few times, haven't we? 29 and 31 with the fair price being 30 halves. Definitely 30 because that's the point of control. So that's the place you want to get out at, essentially. Okay, here's the equities open.
It's in Syria.
I get the feeling that the president is unhappy about the general mood in the country. Like he still thinks that everything's going great. That everybody is just been manipulated or just doesn't know all of the great things that are happening. That's kind of what it feels like he's saying. But I mean, look at the E-mini, man. I mean, I know the E-mini does irrational things, but that is not everything is happy and great and doing fine, you know. That is like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Mm-mm-mm. So I'm gonna say something else about that though, Swizzo, is like again, like what happened at 30 half. You know, you'll get that price where they never really stack a whole lot at that price, and it will go bid and offer many times. Like they'll bid it up and they'll bid 500, and then they'll sell everything that's there and they'll offer 500, and then they'll bid 500. You know, and it'll go back and forth, right? And that's usually what you see at a zipper. But that wasn't really what happened at 30 half, was it? Like it traded back and forth there a couple of times. They were kind of fighting it there, and then they would put, you know, like a 2,000 offer, and it would sit there forever and nothing would happen, you know, until finally they took it. And when they did take it, you know, when they sold it pretty dramatically. So I think you have a little bit of both going on. I think that the market definitely thinks that 30 is the fair price. But I also think that somebody took a position up there. Somebody big sold it up at 30. And probably somebody big also bought it at 29. May have been the same guy and he got completely out. But the cumulative delta is kind of like there's been so much of value, you know, so little volume and so little change in cumulative delta that it would be impossible to try and figure out if that's really what happened. Especially since it's FOMC day and you have no clue how many participants can actually be out there, you know? Okay, so there's some pretty strong selling in the open in the E-mini that got absorbed. Look at all those bubbles. That could be really positive. Now these 2 ticks down have been correlated with the E-mini, so it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to result in a trend. the other thing is that I'm just kind of thinking, well, I really should have taken it off at 29 or 29 and a half, and I only got 30, right? So what could I have seen there that would have told me that that was really the price to get out? And I think the only thing that I really see that really tells me that those are the right prices now is the volume profile. And I'm not sure if that's what it looked like when we first started trading down here, but it's not like just the numbers, the amount of volume going through and the way the liquidity stacks and holds isn't really telling us, is it? So that's kind of interesting. But it's just kind of like another thing because I really think that this is not the time to be in. And if it hadn't have gone any other way, I think I would maybe still be hoping for it to go lower. So it's definitely something that I need to watch in the future. And man, it's been here to 30 half now. This is the third time. The third time since that block order. And look at when they take down the 3,000 on the down tick. But it's at 30. I'm also wondering what would it take for the this right here, this blue right here, what would it take for that to flip? There's a good, so 35 to 43. There's a good 8,000 more sell side liquidity than there is, sorry, buy side liquidity than there is sell side liquidity because of that big order at 27. You know, YouTube is kind of being weird today. Yeah, we had like a lot of people watching, and now not so many people. Kind of weird. Kind of weird, folks, but I don't know. I guess it's just crap. I guess me sitting and talking about how awful the action is today is probably scaring people off. Anyone else having trouble connecting to the CME today? Mine took a weird long time. No. Who's your data provider? Are you CQG or Rhythmic or who's the other one? The other one I'm told is really good, but I only ever hear people having technical problems with it. Swisso says no problem. Yeah, YouTube keeps like the number of viewers on YouTube is like switching around wildly. Like it's saying right, I see 2 people talking in chat, but it says that there's only 1 person watching. Direct com. Really? Okay. Yeah, you see now it says 0. So maybe you all did just disappear, but on my end it doesn't even have a viewer count. Yeah, it says 0 when Yuzi's talking. So I'm like, okay. YouTube is probably just being weird. It could also be my browser. So I was watching Twitch yesterday, and then all of a sudden the feed stopped and started giving me a 2000 error, and I guess it had to do with Brave. My web browser, something about it didn't like. The other thing that's kind of weird about it is that normally it would like count. Oh, see, I'm actually watching it right now. Shouldn't be. That's not good. That's unnecessary bandwidth. But it would normally count my browser watching it as a viewer too, and it's not so showing it. Okay, so that was some strong buying in the E-mini on the open. I would say, and they've just kind of gotten back to where they were sitting before, you know, they haven't really gotten anywhere. Joshua Lincoln, I'm watching. Oh, okay. Nice to meet you. Have you been watching for a while, or is today the first time you've tuned in? Fake news. Oh, okay. Oh yeah. So I mean, I'm always gonna I'm here's the thing with me. I am just unnaturally stubborn. And it's not even like you would think somebody would say that and you would say, well, if you think you're unnaturally stubborn, that's maybe not something to be proud of, right? So then but then I'm not necessarily proud of it, right? So then why don't you change that?
Just clocked dollar
And
drop there ahead of the 3 o'clock fix, 10 o'clock fix out in New York. Up in about 20 minutes. Dollar yen tracking through lows. Dollar itself hits 7-week lows versus the yen ahead of FOMC tonight.
I have to push the E-mini down. Mr. President demands that. Oh, I hope that. Oh, Bob Lee remembers streaming from last year. Yeah, the Christmas tree is still there. It's just like I've changed the room around, right? So the room is much better acoustically because of the way that I have it set up. But now you can't see. I mean, maybe I should put the Christmas tree in the background so you can see it there. But anyways, it's it's just something I noticed, and it's just like it just kind of happens, and I don't know. It's kind of weird when I sit back and I think about it, especially like when I'm in a trade that I really should cut off, and I don't, and I'm just like, why are you like that? Why are you so stubborn? But then what it does, I'm in a good trade, and they kind of scare me out, and then it goes lower. It's like, oh, what? That doesn't make any sense. I guess the market's pretty good at playing with your emotions, right? Like they did it to us there at 30.5, and I recognized it that time. They pushed it up. The E-mini was selling. They pushed the treasuries up. They're trying to make it look super scary, and that was the place to sell it.
Nasdaq finding better gains as Facebook turns itself around.
Oh, who's this? Who's this here on Twitch? Are you single? No, I'm married. Sorry. Oh, been married for 2 years now. The Sunday was our 2-year anniversary. Which is kind of crazy because it doesn't feel to me like it's been that long. Been it? Last year it was like live streaming from a concert hall. Yeah. Well, not only did I switch the direction that my computer was going so that there's further back there, but I also put some room treatment in. it's not perfect. There's still some comb filtering from especially from it bouncing off of the door, because there's glass there. How often do you shave, and at what age did you notice you were balding? So I've been getting lazy with the shaving lately for sure, haven't I? How am I looking here? I'm pretty, like, I mean, I tried to do something about the neck beard, but it's been like 2 days, so I need to clean that up. But it's like wintertime, and it's so much more comfortable this way. Like, you go outside and your face is still warm. I like it, even though I think it looks like shit. So if I look messy, I acknowledge that I probably don't look so great. Probably looks pretty messy, but it's just so freaking cold outside right now, man. Yeah. This guy looks like a real fucking troll. Like, he's telling me, oh, we're gonna pump Bitcoin, and we're gonna do something, and we're gonna buy it, and the whole fucking time it's going down. The whole time it's going down. So here's a couple of theories about this guy. Okay, one, he's just completely full of shit and has, no clue what's happening, and is just trying to see if he can yank somebody's chain. Two is that he was actually planning on selling a lot, and he's responsible for it going from 3,900 to 3,770, and he's trying to pump it up so that he can sell it. Yeah, see, Uzi knows where I'm going, right? I don't know, but I think that if he really was doing orders and putting in that much money, then coming in here and telling us is illegal. That's market manipulation. So yeah. Way to wreck the world super hard. I mean, it's okay. He can say whatever he wants. I'm not going to do anything until it gets down to reasonable price. I know, right? Uzi says people trade more bonds in the E-mini here than crypto cash. Yes, but the channel does attract a lot of Bitcoin traffic because I made a couple of videos about Bitcoin, and they were really, really good videos. I mean, oh, what's this? Oh, someone just asking me a question. There's a private question. Are you using NinjaTrader for Bitcoin only, or only for other markets too? No, I have a bunch of charts on my other screen. Like I have these ones right here. So I use this one mostly to tell, like, because I seem to have a hard time knowing what the range was. So I will tend to look at this and say, okay, there's a very clear 3-tick range here. So if I really, really want to take a trade here, I should probably try and get 30 for a sell and 29 half for buy if I can. My buddy over the FBI who monitors Superheart's computer cameras says he lives in his mom's basement and doesn't even have an account. So yeah, I use NinjaTrader for the charts, and what I have set up right now is the data is coming through NinjaTrader, and then I use the bridge to get it over here. So you can see when I search here, I'm using platform and T8, and that's the symbol that I trade. So I'm using the bridge. But if I try and show Bitcoin on the DOM through the bridge, it just looks like a complete fucking mess. Because this, well, that's the futures. I actually have, here, I can add it here. Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, USD. Okay. So it might take a bit to load. Yeah. And it doesn't give me historical data, but that is from Coinbase, because NinjaTrader can connect to Coinbase. But then if I let's
Right,
try
we're
it.
10 minutes away now from US data. We're looking at existing home sales for the month of November. 5.2 million expected from 5.22 million last month. The range 5.05 to 5.31 million.
Okay, so
As for
there's
home
that on
sales,
the market analyzer.
home sales percentage change has seen down 0.6% after that rise of 1.4% last month. Range minus 1.7 to positive 0.8%. 1.7 to positive 8%. Some of last month's gains were down to reversal, or the previous month's hurricane hit numbers for existing sales.
Oh, I think I would have to restart it to get the. Oh no, wait, there it is.
Worth noting the uptick in sales pulled in line with the message from December pending sales index.
So there you can see it. It actually will show me some of the data through the bridge from Coinbase, but it's like
housing is slowing.
it's really weird. It acts really weird.
And tighter lending standards. But says the rate of increase of home prices is slowing as inventories creep higher, but broad declines are very unlikely.
See that?
Just note the subcomponents. We saw the medium selling price last month at 255,400. That was up 3.8% from October a year earlier. Last month we saw inventory of homes for sale at 1.85 million units, 1.85 million units, 4.3 months worth. We saw NAR, I said 3% of US existing home sales, stress versus 3% in September.
So it doesn't know how to interpret the level 2 that it's getting from Coinbase correctly.
Reserved to pause rate hikes in order to help housing markets.
Let's switch this back to ZT. Is what it was set at. But yeah. So it's kind of weird like that. But this chart is the futures. And so I always leave that one up because I know especially when I started streaming, that was what people were most interested in. Yeah, it's unusable. That's what people were most interested in, so that's why I always have that little chart down there in the corner, even though I don't really use it. I would prefer personally to watch that, to see the orders there. But and then I added this here because it seemed like people were a little bit more engaged when they could see how much I was losing. You know what I mean? Well, they did finally tick into 28.5, and there's still a lot trading into 28.5 too. I don't know. I still really think that they could get down to that 27, but the action is just so crappy. I don't want to mess with it.
Doing the rounds again, but Trump has ordered full US troop withdrawal from Syria.
Oh.
Basically saying earlier in the tweet that ISIS has been in Syria. Only reason for being there during the Trump presidency, which was out a while back.
And he's talking about the Trump Foundation. It looks like he has a lot to talk about today. Yeah. Anyways, what were we saying before that? No, it would be really nice if I could trade if you could see the cryptocurrencies on the DOM here, like if the DOM knew how to actually interpret it, but it don't. I've traded cryptocurrencies the past 2 years and formed a passion for trading, so I'm making a migration to traditional markets, which I find a lot more interesting, but then again, I need different tools. Yeah, they're really, well, I mean, the thing that's interesting about cryptocurrencies is that the data is there, but the tools are either very, very expensive or just not publicly available. There is at least one program out there that I've seen that is a lot like Jigsaw. But like I have my let me find the link for you guys since I'm not going to be taking a trade here. Here it is. Here's this link. So that's like my tape. I'll show it to you. Do I have the I don't know if I have it on the desktop anymore or not. It's like I don't. Where would I have put it? I swear I put it somewhere. Maybe I'm gonna have to download it onto this machine again. Where is it? This is zip. Let's put it on the desktop. So here's my tape. If you can see that.
Back on the session here now, above $57 a barrel.
So this shows you all of the orders that are going through.
Stocks also up around
on Coinbase.
Making further gains.
And some markets, some of the tools that I've seen out there will aggregate the orders. So like you can see this one right here. I can tell because two orders hit at the exact same time that it was actually they actually filled two people. So what it will show you is it will show you the people that are getting filled and not actually the market order itself. So you have to reconstruct them from the time. And I can set it up to filter it by how big it is, right? So like if I only want to see trades that are larger than a whole Bitcoin, for instance, then you can see that. And like I've found some really useful information. Like I've literally on days where it's going down, you know, right, you can trade literally with just this.
Existing home sales data on the wires. Expected to dip slightly from last month at 5.2 million this month versus 5.22 million. As a percentage, it seemed November slipping by 0.6% after gains of 1.4 last month.
Pretty strong move up in the E-mini there.
Subcomponents, their median selling price last month came in at 255,400. That's 3.8% higher than October 2017. Inventory of homes for sale was at 1.85 million. It was 4.3 months worth.
You see now how it's kind of like I did kind of know that we were likely to move down. Largely because I really think that this order down here is significant. But, you know, how did it do it? And we're only one tick lower. And, you know, all of these other things that's not really great trading for us today. Like we made one tick, could have made three. That's actually like really lucky. Yeah, found one as well. Fed Info ROM GDAX, Bitfinex, and BitMEX, and used it in last spring. Yeah. So something I want to do is I want to make it so that that one tape will show you everything. You know, like all of the exchanges. That would be cool. But the library that I want to use for it isn't done yet. They're still working on it. And I don't want to go and make it my own connection to every exchange. That would be like a lot of work. So I just kind of shelved it for now until they're a little bit more mature. So what was the number that they were expecting again? Home sales 5.2. Holy, yeah, it would be nice. I mean, I totally have the ability to do it, right? It's just that tape that I just showed you, I'm making my own connection to it. Like I had to write all of the stuff for the WebSocket to connect to it and everything. And there's something out there that's a library that connects to everything, but they don't have WebSockets.
5.32 million. That was up 1.9%.
Okay, so a little bit better than expected.
Homes for sale units, 1.74 million units. That's 3.9 months worth. Median selling price there at 257,700. The rise of 4.2% from November 2017. NAR, 2% of US homes, existing home sales were distressed versus 4 a year ago. Better than expected existing home sales then. 5.32 million, 5.2 million expected.
Oh, 28.5 did go offer. They may do it here. See, like, I think this kind of action is the kind that will kind of mess with you, because I did think it was going to go down, didn't I? I said, well, Having Edge is going to go down. I sold it. I got a little bit out of it and it came back, so I got out of it. But then I was like, well, you know what? I would still like to be in, because I still think it's going to go down. And it was really crappy action, and so I think staying out is justified. But it did go down. I was right. And I'm even now kind of thinking about it. I'm not really quite sure why I was so positive. And I actually think that that's maybe a fault. Like, I often feel really confident about things when I really don't know. And then you end up being right, and you say, see, I was right, so I should trust myself. But it's actually not really the... How can I make my order entry any faster? Well, the only thing that I know of that you can do is if you have, I mean, like, I'm getting money market data through CQG, right? So the faster my connection is to CQG, the better things will be. And so you can, like, rent these servers that are, like, really close to those data centers in Chicago, and so it'll be a little bit faster.
Wall Street Journal piece out says
but
set to widen scrutiny of telecom.
I don't know. For the sort of thing that we're doing, the amount of difference that you would get on that isn't really a big deal. So my take on it is that if your order execution isn't fast enough, then you're probably trading the wrong kind of strategy for a retail trader. Probably. You mean you're going to go up and do it again? Thinking about it. By the way, did any of you guys... I didn't see Ace say he was selling it. Did anybody sell this? Or sorry, did anybody take a trade in the E-mini? So that's continuing to flatten. I don't know if there's any one data feed that's actually faster. Fortunately, I think that the retail data is still kind of in the dark ages.
Something for the rand here. IMF's Lagarde doesn't see a need for South Africa assistance.
New low. Can I talk about my edge? Well, yeah, I mean, I try and explain what I'm thinking as I do it, but I don't know if my edge is really something that is like super clearly laid out. But the process that I think of it is this: I want to see that my risk reward is in the correct spot. I want to see something in the order flow that indicates that that spot is going to hold. Want to see something on the longer term trend that indicates that if I took that trade that I'd be going in the right direction, right? And I want to see that the longer term value is in line. Like, so if something is, if
Dollar
there's
rand is
news,
up by 1.4% today at 1300.
if there's a piece of news, like say
McConnell
that,
says he will
hold on.
introduce a stopgap funding bill on February the 8th. McConnell says he will introduce a stopgap funding bill February the 8th.
So let's try and do this
This is US Senate Majority Leader McConnell. They seek passage of temporary funding bill.
theoretically for the FOMC meeting, okay?
And that spending bill will be introduced later today.
E-mini is like dramatically oversold, I think. I mean, we've had really strong down moves, and we're at a very, very long-term support zone. So, if I had to, the risk reward favors going long here on the longer term time frame, right? And when we look at today's action, we are moving up and we are moving down in treasuries. So if I'm going to take a trade, I'm going to prefer to be buying the E-mini or selling the ZN because of those things. So if the FOMC meeting comes out today, and let's say that they come out and they raise interest rates as expected, but their statements are like really dovish, but still positive. They're like, economy still looks strong and everything like that, but things favor us maybe not raising rates as fast because we're not getting inflation, and maybe we'll even back off on selling our
Bank of Canada has to watch Fed's forecast very closely, says PIMCO.
selling our all of our loans and stuff that we've been dumping onto the market. Okay, so that would be, I would interpret that as they're not going to raise interest rates as fast. That is bullish for treasuries and is bullish for the E-mini too. So then I want to see my risk reward is right. So, given this particular range, if I was going to sell something, probably would want to do it at least 28.5 or 29. I want to see something that says I want to see something that says this is the range and this is the price that people think is fair right now, and see that I'm selling above that or buying below that. That's how I look at it. And then if we come up and I see something weird, right? So like right now, this is kind of the spot. So seeing a really, really big iceberg here at 28.5 would maybe be the thing, right? Then you come in here, somebody's has a huge iceberg. They're trying to keep the market down, and that's a spot where I could easily get filled because there's not going to be a whole lot on the offer and there's going to be a lot of contracts buying. Then maybe I would sell there, and then it's just, you just kind of see if it works out that it's going to go down. So you're taking into consideration fundamentals more than I thought you are. Yes and no. I mean, I will take a trade that is against the fundamentals, but I'm not going to take a trade like if I'm going to take a trade and I want to hold it for 8 ticks, there's probably going to be some sort of fundamental reason moving it in that direction for that to happen. Sometimes there's just nothing happening and I can see that I can pull a tick out and I'll do that, but But yeah. And if it's doing something, like let's say that news comes out. So like Swisso was saying, watch the E-mini smear down. So like, let's say that the Federal Reserve statement comes out, and just the way that I explained, really dovish, but still positive on the economy. And the E-mini sells hardcore. Well, then that is like, I don't understand what's going on, and so I just stay out. You know what I mean? So it's really, they're really more filters more than anything. They're just kind of filters to prevent you from getting into the really, really bad trades, to prevent you from fading a trend day, essentially, you know? Because what you don't want to have happen is it's a day where things are being relatively range bound like they're being right now, and sell into 27.5. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me from a risk reward perspective, because number one, the big order that we've been watching has been the one at 27. So buying like one tick, or sorry, selling one tick above that is like, you might only get one tick. So it doesn't make much sense to sell 27.5. But at 28.5, because of where we were ranging and everything, 28.5 would maybe work. And if you had taken 28.5, you would at least get one tick out of it, right? And I kind of know based on the range what I can really expect, right? If I take, 2 or 3 ticks out of it, that's good. I just got the range. If it gives me more than that, then that means that there was a reason for it to move, and we made a good prediction. And if it goes, and then based off of that, I kind of know where they're liable to stop and take it off or something. Best data feed is TT or Star. I didn't know that TT had its own data feed. When you look at 2566. You talked about that 6550? Or was there some absorption there that I missed? There's a bubble there. I don't know. Anyways, at that point with the 27.5, and that's a spot that you could potentially think about buying. But the daily trend has been down, right? We've been moving down overall. So in order for me to buy 27.5, I would need to see something that has a really strong possibility of the daily action reversing. Because don't get me wrong, you'll see reversals all the time like that, but that's really unreliable. So I need something that's like reliable to say that it's changed. The whole book flips. Like this blue goes really, I guess normally this would be red, so this is kind of an odd situation, but this liquidity completely flips around. The absorption here completely flips around. I can see the orders on here, like all this. There's a bunch of orders down here, and then all of a sudden there's a bunch of orders up here, and it ticks up, and there's tons of buying, and all of these things to say, okay, maybe there's actually a good chance that it's reversed here. Because if you don't see that, then the chances are that the trend is going to probably continue down. And then maybe it's a trend day today, you never know. And then all of a sudden you're down 4 ticks. So that's why I use all of those sorts of things. But like I said, it's not always like it's just kind of like, look at what I can see here in the mid to long term trend, value, the news, the short term trend in the order flow. What can I use about those things to minimize my risk? That's the question you got to ask yourself every time you take a trade. And that's how I do it. And then just the order flow is mostly I'm looking at are the bids stacking or pulling? Is there absorption, or are they trading through it really easily? And how much do they put on it, you know? Right now, this 28 has been pulling. So with that pulled to 900 there for a second, right? But there's 2562 is actually traded. So that says to me that even though it's pulling and the liquidity is looking weak, there's actually a good number of people willing to sell it at 28. And that could be an indication that those guys want to be filled and they're leaving the offer there weak on purpose so that they can get filled. That could be an indication that we're going to go lower. Especially if if we see like 4,000 trade here and then that bid stacks up, that's a level break and we could go lower.
Connell says that stopgap
Possibly.
bill will allow Congress to resume debates over Trump's US and Mexico wall into 2019.
Oh, there's a stopgap bill, huh? Peter Schiff, if the Fed doesn't hike rates today, they'll never hike again. We'll read that in a second. I want to see who was putting the stopgap bill out and were they actually going for it. See anything? I'm interested to see if they actually do that, because they would have to have that battle before Democrats take over the House of Representatives, right? Okay, well, there's still a lot of interest here. So, you know, it's always unclear, but that could be an indication that they're going to keep going. I think on a move like this, you're going to tend to see, as long as their interest, they can keep moving in that direction, and it's not until you get to a level and they just don't seem to care that you're really going to stop. E-mini is just is doing a consolidation higher kind of pattern, so I think there's a good chance that the E-mini takes another leg higher. I wonder if I had stayed in that original trade. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe.
Unaffected by nearby hydrogen upsets. Same with energy. In about a minute's time, we'll have a look at the ranges for today's EIA stockpile data. Let's jump at the bottom of the hour.
Thing is that this move back to 27 here is basically to where we were at yesterday. I will reset it, but it doesn't exactly tell me if there's going to be any continuation there or not. I guess we've just been so battered recently. Even the E-mini looks really positive. It's starting to. I'm still skeptical of it. You know, 27 or sorry, 25.75.
10 minutes now to the bottom of the hour, and US oil data. We're looking at a draw of some 2.4 million barrels after a draw last week of 1.21 million barrels. At the range, a draw of 4.3 to a draw of 600,000. Last night, API stockpiles saw build 3.5 million barrels from the week ending December 14th. As for distillate stockpiles, they're seen by building by 570,000 barrels after last week's draw, nearly 1.5 million barrels. The range of drawdown of 2 million to a build of 2.4 million. As for last night, inventories fell last night 3.4 million barrels, according to sources on API. As for gasoline, that's seen at 1.2 million barrel build. Last week's build of 2.1, just shy of 2.1 million barrels. Range draw of 2 million to build of 2.2 million. Last night we saw gasoline stockpiles build by 1.8 million API data. Refinery utilization seen up 0.4% from down 0.4%. The range minus 0.4 to 1.2% to positive 1.2%.
This big order at 08 in ZB.
Build of 1.148 million barrels.
I feel like just turning him off. I don't care about oil. Don't care. This big order here in the 30-year is pretty big for recent history. Like 1100, 1300 has been big in ZB lately, so to see 1700 on the DOM is a lot. And ZB has still kind of been hovering up there at that top. Oh, that was quite a dump there. And now the offer is stacking up. And they traded a ton into 26.75. That could, and the E-mini is like just on the edge. I think they're all getting ready for a breakout here. And they'll be sorely disappointed if it doesn't do it, but I would say very high probability that they do. It's just, I think that if you're at 27, you probably get filled. But I don't know if you were at 26.5 that you'll get filled, for instance. So I'm not going to market sell into it. Okay, so there's a new high in the E-mini. I'm gonna push it a little bit. They're not. They're squeezing, but they didn't really get a lot of stops there. So they'll probably make another push until that they actually get the stops. Oh. A little too cautious there, the way they did it, though. What made you stick to Treasuries? Yeah, so there's a couple of things. I think the main reason is that the 10-year Treasury fits my risk profile the best. I don't have a very big account. I'm not actually trading my account right now. And in Treasuries, I have a good day. I can make $50 in or lose $50 if I have a bad day. In the E-mini, it's very easy to go to like $1,000, and so trading like the E-mini in those instruments doesn't really make sense. And the ZB is just a little bit too likely to move against you, the 10-year. You take a spot, usually that spot's holds. If it doesn't hold, then you're either wrong or you saw the range incorrectly. So it makes it a little bit more sense for me to trade CN. I think there's definitely more opportunity in the E-mini. But every time that I try messing with the E-mini, it kind of ends up being just a distraction, and I don't actually do that great. I think that if I was going to do it, I would have to trade the E-mini and only the E-mini. And then I think the other thing though is that I enjoyed the challenge of it. Like the 10-year is like one of the most efficient instruments in the world. There's so much liquidity. There's so many people trading in. The people that trade it have so much money. There's not a lot of inefficiencies there to take advantage of. The only reason we're able to make money off of it is because big guys come in and need to make trades, and that ends up moving it. And so it's a little bit better for watching for a key move and really getting something out of it than it is for just, picking up noise. So yeah, because of the liquidity, essentially. Yeah. I think that the 10-year is easier to read than any of the other instruments. It was just like this trade today. Granted, I remember saying earlier that like, you take that trade and you're right, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it was a good trade. But it does kind of show you how sometimes you can make reads on the 10-year without a lot of information, just because of the way that the liquidity is. The liquidity just kind of guides it, and it's just like a river, it just goes down to the spot. Yeah, I figured that's why I like it. Yeah. I'd say, if you're a beginning trader, I would always recommend trading the 10-year first. Trade it for a little while until you feel like you understand it. This doesn't mean that you have to be like successful. Like I think you would want to have had a few runs on it, but you don't have to be like a whole year of profitability and then you can move over to the E-mini. No, but I think you want to understand it, because the other thing is that the games that they play, like if there's an iceberg or some absorption or two large traders taking shots at each other or whatever, when it happens in the 10-year, it's like really clear because it's only happening at two prices. When it happens in the E-mini, it's very difficult to see because it can happen across a wide array of prices, and there's so much noise in the E-mini anyways. And so I feel like you get a much better understanding of how the order flow actually works, and when it's really predictive and when it just kind of bolsters your case, by trading it in the E-mini. And then because it's the most efficient, it's like if you can figure it out on the E-mini, that moving to any of the other instruments is just going to be a little bit easier. Well, easier from telling what the flow is going to be, at least. Harder in the risk management. Yeah. Risk management is harder in the E-mini. It really is. Because that thing, man, just like what they just did here, right? It was like, okay, really high probability that they're going to break through this high because of the way that it's trading. And they did, but only for a couple of ticks, and now they're back down. and maybe it goes through or maybe it doesn't, but like, if you decided to short it there, you know, and that went against you, that could run and it would be so ugly. Oh man, Ninja Trader really crashed at that time. I think that it probably didn't like my, it probably crashed on Coinbase. This is why Ninja Trader is not necessarily the best platform to use. Yeah, I know. I have a video I want to make about the products on the E-mini, but I just haven't had a good time to record it. I might do that today though, because the kids are gone. The kids are gone and the birds have to be asleep. Birds are being really quiet right now. Do you prefer a stop limit over a stop market? And I still don't understand the differentiation. Okay, so there are two types of orders. There's a limit order and there's a market order. So a market order is just giving me the best price that anybody's giving me right now. So if I wanted to buy it right now, the best price that anybody's giving me is 26.5. So if I did a market buy, it would buy at 26.5. And that's it. There's no price attached to it or anything. You just say buy and it gives you the best price. 26.5 right now, right? The limit order says I want to buy it, but I want to buy it at a specific price. Like let's say that I wanted to buy it at 25 down there. So now you would go at the back of the queue. There's 5,252 people sitting at 25 right now. You would go to the back of that line. And in order for you to get filled, 5,000 people would have to trade into that. Okay. Now a stop order says if a certain thing happens, then I become an active order. That's really what a stop means. Typically, the most basic kind means that if my price gets touched, so if I have a stop at 26, if any orders go through at 26, then my stop order becomes active, right? And that's where it depends on if it's a stop limit or a stop market. So if I say that it is a stop market, then as soon as that order becomes active, I'm going to sell into 26, right? Now, what happens if right now at 26, what happens if we ticked down to 26 and then somebody immediately sold all 4,000 of the orders there, right? Like one order took all of them all at once. Well, then your market order would come in after that because it would be triggered by that order. So then the next action would be actually you're going to market sell 26. And we call that slippage. So if you're using a stop market order, the disadvantage is you could get slippage. And depending on the product that you're trading, that could be really bad. In the 10-year, you're very unlikely to ever get more than a tick of slippage. I think I've seen a situation where you could get two. If it's like FOMC, maybe you could get more than that. But generally speaking, there's so much liquidity that you're only going to get like a tick of slippage. But if it's in the E-mini or oil, I mean, man, you could get 10 ticks of slippage over there, right? Because there could just be, if there's like only 10 orders at every price and, 1,000 people have stop orders sitting out there at this particular price level, then you could potentially slip 10 ticks. That's how that kind of works, right? So To prevent that sort of a thing, you can use a stop limit order, which would mean I put it in at 26. And if somebody trades through all 4,000 of those orders, I'm only going to put my, I'm going to sell, but it's just going to be at 26. So that's why you'll see something like if we trade through 26 half, you'll pretty quickly see sell orders. You see right there, there's already 1,000 selling there, you know? So if you had a stop limit at that price, you would become one of those sell orders potentially, right? And you would maybe be 500 in line. So now if they trade 500 back into 26 half, which in the 10-year is pretty likely, then you're still going to get the price that you want. But if they decide that this is just one of those moves and somebody immediately sells 3,000 at 26 right now, then you just don't get filled. Right? So, if your stop is an emergency stop, and by emergency stop, that means that it's like 4 ticks out, and that is something that should never be triggered. You're like dead wrong, or there's some sort of news that you didn't expect that's coming through. And that's what's triggering your stop. And in that kind of a situation, you just want to be out. You should probably use a stop market order, because a stop market order is the only thing that will absolutely guarantee that you get out. Okay? Because especially let's say it's FOMC, and you use a stop limit and they just trade through it and they don't come back to it, and that could move 16 ticks against you, right? And so you really would want to have a stop market order. But let's say that I think they are unlikely to trade 27 or to clear 27. But if they do clear 27, that might mean that there's going to be a strong reversal of some sort. Then that might be a good place to put a stop order, because what you're saying is, as soon as that clears, then I want to buy that price. And then, your chances of getting filled on the buy when you get the kind of the back flush come through, you'll probably get filled. Probably. Or let's say you sold 27. You can do them with those big orders. It could stop limit sell 27. Pretty good chance that you would have gotten filled at 27. You'd be short right now. And you could take it off at 26 half. But if you didn't get filled and it goes down, well, that really sucks, but it's not the end of the world, right? Because it just means that you missed that trade. Yeah? So that's how I use a stop limit, stop market order. That's the difference. And that was probably the longest, most detailed explanation of anything I think I've ever given on this stream. But he's asked it 2 or 3 times now, so I hope that is thorough enough that you really understand it now. I mean, there's a reasonable amount of volume going through here now, below 27. So, as long as the E-mini continues to buy, I think that this could potentially continue. Do you prefer a stop limit over a stop market? Oh, sorry, that was the previous question. Yeah. I generally only use the stop limit orders to get into something. But even more so, I would most prefer to just use limit orders. Because then your risk is clearly defined. The other thing is that the liquidity in the 5-year just keeps building. This is red. This is red. The 10-year has been the only thing that was blue. And the only reason it was blue was because of that big order at 27. And now that they've traded through that, it's kind of just even. Bum, bum, bum. Somebody being spamming the Discord. Tisk tisk. Somebody in equity index is asking if anybody's going to take a position for the Fed announcement. And I'm like, please don't do that, guys. We really, man, there is so much uncertainty around this thing. Like, really? The chances of them not raising, I think, are really low. I mean, the market's only pricing in a 25% chance that they don't raise. And I think that the Fed really wants to stick to its guidance because they don't want it, want everybody to plan that there's going to be a rate hike and then don't do it. That would really screw a lot of people up. But there's a statement that they're going to say something in the statement, and we don't know what it's going to be. So that's the first uncertainty. And then the second uncertainty, even if you knew what was in the statement before it came out, how do you know how the market's going to react to it? And then the third uncertainty is the price. Like, let's say you know what it's going to be and you know the way that the market's going to react to it, but how far is the market going to move off of it? Because we could move like a whole point, or we could like move not at all. And you might very likely see something where it will go like 8 ticks up and then 8 ticks down below the price that it originally started at, and do that 2 or 3 times before they finally decide on a direction. And if you can't see the right price to trade it, then you're very likely to take a trade that's in the right direction and still get stopped out. So there's so much uncertainty around this Fed announcement in particular. I absolutely would not hold a position into the Fed announcement, and I would be very cautious about putting in any kind of orders afterwards. I might do it because, I'm trading on a sim account and it's fun, but and if it's like really certain, like what they say, you really know the way that the market's going to react to it, and you see a clear indication that the market's reacting to it, and you're given an okay price to do it and everything, like that can work out. Like, I've done that on a Fed meeting before. If you go back to the March meeting, and you look at my video on that day, I took a trade with my account where I made like $400 on one trade. After FOMC, but it was because the direction and everything about it was clear, and there was this huge fat order that pushed it down, and I said, okay, I can just sell and rely on this order and set my stop 2 or 3 ticks here and be fine. And it worked out. I don't know if this Fed meeting is going to give you that sort of thing. But what will often happen is, after about 5 minutes, the liquidity will come back. We might even see really high liquidity, like 5,000s, 6,000s on the DOM, and then it would be okay to trade. Yep. But like Mark 1 is saying, in equity indexes, you definitely want to watch it. You don't necessarily want to trade it, but you definitely want to watch it. If only for the entertainment, because it will be entertaining. So, can I point another thing out from that much earlier discussion that we were having with Swissow? This is like I was saying, when you get really strong moves in the spreads, for whatever reason, you tend to get a good move off of it. This did come down, 8 ticks? Yeah, 8 ticks from when we were talking about that. It was super poor order flow for trading, but we did get it. This trade says short 25.71. Ooh. Yeah. I have to say, this pattern that I'm seeing in the E-mini looks really negative. Like the E-mini is giving a sort of a head and shoulders kind of pattern right now, with some absorption at the top. Like on this move back up to 25.73, they actually cumulative delta selling there. I'm moving to a new trading firm in New York City today, so I'm not around. Ooh. I guess Aces only looks for like 4 to 8. It only looks for like 8, so I guess you're already out, right? 20, 71, 25. Yeah. There it is right there. Good call. Multi-lots take first profit. Gotcha. Okay. So we're seeing a lot more absorption at 26. I'm tempted to buy it long here, but the trend has been really strong down, and I'm not seeing nearly enough of a indication that this is a hard reversal to really justify like buying 25 half. I think 25 half is where I'd want to do it though. I hate New York, too cold and crowded. Ah, they have an office in Miami. Oh, well, there's. I would probably rather live in Miami than New York. I like New York. Don't get me wrong. The time that I spent in New York was a lot of fun, mostly because of the other people at the firm that were my friends. We had good times down there. I think that if I just moved there and I was starting at a new place and it wasn't really a place with a lot of camaraderie, I could see that being really crappy. But Um, if you've got friends, it's the greatest place. But like Miami is nice all the time, and there's the beach, and there's Miami Music Week. Like, I would probably, if I had to move, I think it would be more fun to move to Miami. I think it would be easier to convince my wife to move to New York than to Miami, though, or Chicago. I think if I moved somewhere, it'd probably be like the kind of company that I would be willing to quit and move for. I don't think I would move outside of Utah unless it was like a hardcore trading job. And that kind of job would probably be in Chicago. And since Chicago has a big airport, it would probably work well for my wife. And we'd probably be able to get the ex to convince the ex to do it too, because he spends a lot of time in Chicago. So if there was a trading job in Chicago, I'd probably move there. But to New York, I don't know if she would go for it. Dead hookers everywhere in Miami. What? Is that? I mean, I've been to Florida, but I haven't spent much time in Miami. So I don't know what the city is really like. I just know that there's beaches and that the weather is nice. That I think is enough incentive. I'm seeing some when we after we traded that iceberg there at 26, the liquidity at 25 half increased. Is that because somebody's afraid that they're not going to get filled? Or is it because they're trying to push it up? The absorption is favoring the buy side right now. So it's really the first time we've seen this where the absorption really favors the buy side. Where you're looking at not having a job and trading from home, right? You wouldn't take a trading job. Now you have to drive to work at 6:30 with a tie on. That wouldn't bother me. When I worked at Goldman, I was only in technology, okay? And so everybody would dress business casual, like a button-up shirt, but not a tie. But I always wore a tie, because I thought I looked better with a tie. And it made me take it more serious, because my problem is always attention. So anything that I can use to remind myself what I'm supposed to be doing helps. So I would always wear the tie. And eventually, they decided, oh, you know what? We're going to relax the workplace standards because we're the Salt Lake office and because that's just the way the workplaces are going. So then you could wear jeans. So then it was like everybody was wearing jeans and polos or even a t-shirt. And I still wore the tie because I was like, I don't want to change anything. Like, I work for a big Wall Street company. I'm supposed to wear a tie, aren't I? Oh, 9K at 26. Could turn around here. I'm not so sure, but that iceberg at 26 is one indication that we could use that there might be a pullback of some sort, if not outright reversal. Anyways, and then when I started trading, I didn't want to start trading and have to stop and then go into work and miss the time and all that. So I said, oh, well, I'll just drive in early and make sure that I'm there by 6:20. So I literally would drive and make sure that I was there by 6:20 in the morning. And I did that for a week or two, and then they changed the firewall and I couldn't get the data there anymore, so I stopped doing it that way. But when I started, I had every intention of just doing it in the morning before work and getting there before everybody else and trading it and all of these things. Now, if it was in Chicago, I don't think you'd have to be there until 8:30, 8, probably be there at 8, but maybe earlier than that. But, the waking up early, it wouldn't bother me. And I mean, if you're taking a real trading job that actually offers like a salary, because nothing would be better than to make the same salary that I'm making today and being able to get paid for trading too. I would be really happy with that. I don't really think that such a job exists, though. or if they do, there are far more qualified people than myself to do that sort of a thing, right? There's just not a lot of trading jobs left. I hope that at some point they kind of get rid of the Volcker rule, maybe change things a little bit so that the robots aren't running amok and some of those jobs come back, and then maybe I would. But what would be better is to trade from home for big bucks, yeah? Yeah, probably. assuming that you're making enough to really do that. Sure. If I owned my house and I had a really big bankroll and I was able to live off of the trading, that would be like obviously the best case scenario. But that's like super, let's not say unlikely, but like what are the chances of? Hard to do. That's very, very far down the line. And it would be a lot easier to do that by getting a trading job in Chicago and doing that for a couple of years and saving up a ton of money and then moving somewhere and trading on your own, I tell you what, you learn a lot. Those guys know what they're doing. When I was there, I mean, I never took courses about how to trade, but they gave us training about how the markets work. There was a training about how options worked that I found really useful. And they train their people really well and they know what they're doing. And then just being able to see the business, like I learned a lot about the business and seeing how the robots worked and stuff like that. So I think that if you had an opportunity to go to a firm and you had never traded in one before, you wouldn't necessarily want to do it for the rest of your life, but I think that it would be an opportunity worth taking. Eight ticks a day, that's all a guy needs. Yeah, if you're trading multiple lots, for sure. I think, man, I don't know. I'm trying to calculate out in my head. So if I'm gonna make $200 per contract, how would this work? You would really only need like one or two. If on average you made 8 ticks a day, on average, at the end of the month, then you would really only need one or two contracts trading the E-mini. But you're probably not gonna actually do that, right? So you probably need like 2 or 3 lots. E-mini Rogue, how's it going? What do you think of Bitcoin long term? Well, that's so. How long term are you talking about? I believe that right now, value in Bitcoin is probably somewhere around 2,000, and there's a good chance that we hover around 3,000 for a really long time before finally giving it up, and that might happen sometime in Q1 of next year. So maybe we get to 2,000 by March, May time period, right? Then we enter the depression stage where it just kind of stays there and nobody really cares anymore, and there aren't news stories about it anymore. People don't come and ask me questions about it in chat anymore. Just kidding. I'm just kidding, Rogue. But there'd be a depression phase, and that could last for a long time. And it might be longer than the last run, the last depression. It might be even longer than that. So that could be a good 1 or 2 years. And then we'll move. Eventually there will come a point. I mean, so 2000 is where value is right now. There's a possibility that it goes down there and the Bitcoin market weakens even further and value gets even lower. But 2000 is where it's at right now. So, but then eventually you get to a point, and who knows how low that is, but there's a point where the number of people that are in the market becomes less than the number of people that are interested in entering the market. And then we start moving up again. And it moves up and more people hear about it and they want to get in, and it moves, and it keeps going. And then we could enter into another bull market, potentially bubble phase. Now, that becomes where I think that there's some really, really big wild cards in there. So one of the wild cards is that Bitcoin still hasn't increased the block size and can't handle the size. And this Lightning Network thing is just not going the way that they said it would. Maybe it improves and it works well, and if they make it easy to use, and then that fixes that problem. But with the current limitations, as long as those current limitations are in there, it will be very difficult to get higher than we have gotten the last run. Because there's just this point at which people can't make transactions anymore. So, a couple of things could happen. One, we just pump and Bitcoin gets back up there and then it doesn't make a new high, and then that could potentially be the end of Bitcoin. Or, while we're down here in the depression, there could be a flip. In particular, the Bitcoin Cash just is like way oversold. Way oversold. So what if Bitcoin Cash bottoms before Bitcoin and they flip or something like that? Or, Ethereum has a lot of utility to it, so it could be Ethereum, or it could be what is this one called? The one that nobody likes because it's all corporate and stuff. Ripple, right? Or it could be Ripple. So there could be a flip, right? Or they give in and they increase the block size. That could happen too. Okay. If they fix the block size problem, I think that there is a possibility that we take a move higher. But it depends on a lot of things. He says 10 years. I mean, all of that is maybe like 5 to 7 years, right? So there's two other things. I do think at some point Bitcoin is not going to be worth anything. Because it's going to get replaced. Like if the US government comes out and they make their own cryptocurrency, then Bitcoin's not worth anything. Because most of the interest in the market is in the technology itself and not in the currency itself. And if you get a cryptocurrency backed by a central bank, then for me, that really eliminates the desire for Bitcoin. So now the only people that would really be interested in Bitcoin would be like the anti-Federal Reserve conspiracy theorist type of people. Okay. So at some point Bitcoin will be worth zero, I think. Well, not zero, but essentially zero. Okay. There'll always be somebody willing to buy it and pump it and mess with it. So that's the one. The other thing, though, is that at some point they are going to mine out all of the blocks. And I believe if I was Satoshi and I actually wanted to make money on it, what I would do is I would wait until all of the blocks are mined out. And then when we get to that point, then I would sell as the market requires. So if the market's getting ahead of itself, then I would sell a little bit. And I would essentially become the central bank of Bitcoin, right? Satoshi then becomes the one that is able to manipulate the supply of Bitcoin and hold it, you know? So I think if you are a long-term holder, you know, I think you want to get out when it's a bubble and you want to get in when it's oversold. But I think that there is reason to remain engaged in the cryptocurrency market and Bitcoin in particular, or whichever fork ends up being influential. I would keep an eye on Bitcoin Cash because that's the biggest fork. I think that there's a reason to stay engaged in it until they mine out all the blocks. So that's 10 years ahead. And yeah, that's what I think about it. Well, it is 9 o'clock. I'm going to work from home today. And I am going to trade, I am going to be streaming during the FOMC. But I'm going to get a little bit of work done here first. So I am going to shut down the stream and I will start it up about 15 minutes before the announcement. All right. So yes, and I'm going to go post the cryptocurrency notes right now. So for those of you that subscribe to the Patreon, you can see the charts today. And yeah, and we're in, if you have any questions or anything, put them in Discord because we'll be watching that. All right. So I will see you guys in a few hours.